In this case, you will see some peculiar situation. The nephew would not pay his money or spend any time to support the uncle's business, or he just forbids from smoking, drinking, gambling, the kind of undesirable activities, often what they hated by the family members or neighbors. So very ethical to be exchanged for some interest. So you will well be justified. The nephew has done his side. That should be respected. The kind of restraint is due to serve his personal body. So you will have some suspect if it could constitute any constellation, or if the contract was enforceable actually, as sustained contract was enforceable and constellation can be found. Because he has sacrificed his liberty interest. So we generally, a person who entertain the kind of heavenly bestowed liberty, we can smoke, drink, and or gamble. That could be forbidden. 20 years in reliance of uncle's promise to pay $8,000. So we'll find legally identifiable constellation according to the theory of constellation or contract. One other case, perhaps analogous to this situation, is the kind of parental promise to his what a son wants. If you go to law school and what obtains A score or A grade in first year law schools or A's, then 4 or 5 subjects, then I'll pay $5,000. Is it an enforceable contract? How do you consider? There is also one very famous illustration, often raised in your first year contract class, about the issue of consideration. And also exercise some hypotheticals involving pre-existing duty. The pre-existing duty could well provide some effective factor to modify the traditional rules of constellation. So exercise your legal mind and insight to investigate the kind of situation, and please revisit the contract outline. Gilbert was famous through the basics of contract and good compromise. And we also make some exciting aspect about the common law system. Let us take trial by jury in civil cases. The Constitution of the United States imposed a requirement about the jury trial, and that will first be concerned with criminal proceedings, and you also have some amendments pertaining to the jury trial involving civil litigation. Then page A7 will be covered by this topic. The Seventh Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees the right to jury trial in federal civil cases in federal courts when the amount in controversy exceeds $20. Most states have similar guarantees in their own constitutions, although many states put a higher minimum dollar amount restriction on the guarantee. For example, Iowa requires the dollar amount of damages to be at least $10,000 before there is a right to jury trial in civil cases. In the following case, the right to civil trial by jury, even when no funds exist to pay jurors, is a form. On June 16, 1986, the director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California suspended all civil jury trial for a period of 3.5 months for budgetary reasons due to lack of funds with which to pay the jurors. The court stated that the suspension was found to be a violation of Seventh Amendment because it denied an individual the ability to have a jury trial for an extended period of time and put a price tag on constitutional rights which cannot be affected by a budget shortage. A civil trial can be held with or without a jury. If there is no jury, the judge determines the truth of the facts alleged in the case. The right to trial by a jury does not have to be exercised. And many cases are tried without a jury. In most states, and in federal courts, one of the parties must request a jury or the right is presumed to be waived. So the jury trial in civil cases is a matter of a constitution in one aspect, and could be amenable to the situation of contingencies. In some cases, the right to jury trial would not be exercised, and the amount, amount is also pertinent to the system of jury trial in civil cases. The Constitution requires $20 at minimum. And also, you will take a look into the state constitutions, and many states put a higher minimum dollar amount restriction on the guarantee. That would be compatible, of course, with the federal constitution, since the amount is high. And you will have one example from the state of Iowa. It requires $1,000 in the list on the state constitution. And you also have some very interesting example from the state of California, and it is from the federal court, resided in Central District of California. It suspended all civil jury trial for a period 3.5 months for budgetary reasons due to lack of funds with which to pay the jurors. That is what actually contravening the language of Constitution, very expressive. So on its face, it contradicts provisional constitution, the 7th Amendment. Budget shortage will not be any effective reason to avoid the constitutional requirement. It's basic. Of course, you will see many arguments about fiscal deficiency or shortage to satisfy any public programs or others. So positive rise would be asserted in the context of a modern administrative state. We now expect many social benefits from the state, and it is just what is structured what they constitute to explain the basic of this society in new millennium. Nonetheless, is still the kind of second generation of human rights, which depends on the capability of a government in terms of its fiscal plan wise. So that could well be profiled in relation with that aspect. Nonetheless, this case would not go same with kind of a positive liberty. The jury trial basically concern of a negative liberty. The concept of negative liberty is very classic and foundational and very fundamental as a basic to sustain the civil administration. So, well, actually, that could not be dispensable from the reason of a fiscal or budgetary consideration. How do you suppose? That is very general and often come easy in any structural comprehension of the constitution or kind of political theory. And also, we see some aspect about criminal law. The topic is regulation of gun, and page 109. The right to bear arms is safeguarded in the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which states, well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So you now have the language of Second Amendment, very traditional, and what the actually phrase of carnage over decades of misfortune or catastrophes, often a very tragic from school gun shooting or the kind of contingencies in deep depression, serious serial killings, what I say, very actually depraving against our safety and basic humanity. The right of citizens to bear arms was not an unlimited right, recognized common law. When the Constitution was adopted, the right was guaranteed so that the people could maintain a militia as a protection against violence. So you will have a due imagery about classic periods, kind of militia and open barbarian to safeguard their interests. Or actually, the kind of status is very chaotic. somebody would kill me in any expectation. Very fearful. So we will be adequate to bear arms for a self-defense violence, and that concept has also been sustained in the decades or the century of a westward expansion in the United States. Still could not be eradicated in any fundament. We have a Second Amendment in reality and due effect in constitutionalism of the United States. And also the federal response will not be clear-cut or straightforward to touch on the core evils of inaction or any system to affect kind of a tragedy. Well, in New Jersey, a group of sportsmen should to have a state gun control law declared unconstitutional. The statute required that all persons who were in to buy a firearms in New Jersey present a firearms purchase permit. To obtain the permit, the person had to be investigated and fingerprinted. Permits would not be issued to habitual or drunkard, narcotic addicts, or the mentally ill. The sportsmen claimed the law violated their absolute right under the Second Amendment to bear arms. The court decided, however, the gun control laws are poor and reasonable exercise of state's police power, as long as the maintenance of state militia is not impaired. And the state has a right to protect its citizens from the dangers of illegal firearms. So militia is often not usual in this long period of time. Nonetheless, we still witness some of occasions in 20th century of the United States. So consider the situation to relate the constitutional requirement with there is great controversy about gun control laws. The issue is whether the citizen has an absolute right as an individual to kill and bear arms, or whether this right must be reasonably related to the preservation of public peace. Many states have determined the gun control laws